It is already week 7 in high school football, and it is a Monday, which means I have your rankings. This video being the Class A rankings. Again, if you're not subscribed to IA Sports on YouTube, be sure to do so before we start. Many of you probably aren't. You just click on to watch this video and hop out, but subscribing helps support what we do. So if you could do that before these rankings start, we'd greatly appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into your 16 through 11 this week in Class A. We've got some new faces. Starting at number 16, South Central Calhoun. They are coming off a tough loss to West Hancock, 57-6. They'll hang on in our rankings, but you would have liked to see the Titans make that one a little closer. West Hancock, though, a true title contender this year in Class A, so not a horrible loss at the end of the day. At number 15, Logan Magnolia, they're 5-1. They beat Westwood 20-12 last week to move up a spot. And at number 14, and new to our rankings, one of a handful of teams still undefeated in this class, Lake Mills. They beat Belmont Clemmy 41-0 to earn a spot in our rankings. They've got a big one this week that we'll talk about later. At number 13, Starmont, they beat Postville 57-0. And as you can see, this 11 through 13 spot's pretty tricky because each of these teams have beaten each other and each of these teams have a loss to each other. It's a weird kind of triangle of teams kind of beating up on each other and losing to each other. So Starmont, Northland, and East Buck are all kind of in the same boat at the 11 through 13 spot, which is why we kind of have them jumbled up in there. And number 12, Northland, they beat Clayton Ridge 42-0, and East Buck, they beat North Cedar 53-6. So that's kind of our reasoning for having them right there. Without further ado, let's get into your top 10 this week for Class A. A new team to the ranks, number 10, Wapsie Valley. They're 5-1. They joined the ranks for the first time this year. Their lone loss is coming to a very good team in Class 1A in Denver. And in every other game this year, this Warrior defense hasn't allowed a single point. Yep, you heard that right. 5 of the 6 weeks, this Wapsie Valley team has pitched a shutout. And last week on the offense, Trayton Sorbury tacked on 100-plus rushing yards and 4 scores in their win. And they've got 0-6 BCLUW on the horizon. And really the only test I see for them coming up is their final week where they play Nashua Plainfield. So Wapsie Valley having a great season already, and it's looking like that's going to continue. At number 9, ACGC, another undefeated team. They are 6-0. All 6 wins coming by 2 possessions or less. They just find a way to get victories. The tag team duo of Jathan South and Anthony Solorzano each racked up 100-plus rushing yards in their narrow win over ICAM Manning. They've got a good one this week, though, against a 3-3 Mount Air squad. You might see 3-3 and I think it's kind of a pushover coming, but Mount Air has done anything but roll over. They've hung with Madrid, only a 1-point loss there, and they've also taken Linville solely to overtime. So Mount Air, a really good team. Would not be shocked to see Mount Air really, really compete and push ACGC in this one. At number 8, Makokata Valley, the Lance McShane show continues. 34 attempts, 281 yards, and 5 touchdowns on the ground for what might be the best back in the entire class. The Wildcats' lone loss to East Buck seems to be behind them, and they've done nothing but dominate following the one hiccup. This week, though, they've got a 5-1 in our number 12 ranked Northland squad. So that one should be a good one in Class A. At number 7, Linville Sully, we just talked about them. Somehow, some way, the Hawks found a way to get it done against a good Mount Air squad. It took them to overtime. Linville Sully averaged just 1.7 yards per carry as a team, and they completed less than 50% of their passes. Nevertheless, they don't draw a picture in the win column. It's either a W or an L, and the Hawks got the win and moved to 5-1. They've got 2-4, Martinsdale, St. Mary's next. At number 6, Columbus, they're 4-2. Columbus averaged over 20 yards per carry in a huge win over Loiza Muscatine, in which Columbus put up 70 points. That marks their highest point throughout the year. Their 6-point loss to Lisbon is looking better and better, and they'll look to finish the year strong against 2 winnable opponents. Next week, they've got Van Buren County. Really, though, at the number 6 spot, there's just no room for them to move up because the top 5 in Class A is pretty solidified, I'd say. At number 5, Lisbon. The last 3 weeks, the Lions have won by a combined score of 165-0. Last week, they tacked on 276 yards on the ground as a team with 8 rushing touchdowns and a rout over Wapello. Lisbon is playing with their hair on fire over the last month, and they've got 4-2 Danville next. At number 4, West Hancock. Their one loss to St. Ansgar, and ever since that loss, they have just been beating up on everybody that's put in front of them. They are on an absolute tear, and that continued in their Week 6 win at a ranked South Central Calhoun squad. The Eagles got up 30-0 in the first quarter and never looked back. Mitchell Smith only threw the ball one time, and it's because he never really had to. On 30 rush attempts, the offense averaged over 14 yards per carry, highlighted by Kellen Smith's 200-yard performance and 4 touchdowns. Next up, though, they've got 6-0, number 14, Lake Mills. So Lake Mills, they're new to our rankings, and right away they get a test against a top 5 team in West Hancock that's looking to compete for a state championship. That one should be fun. At number 3, Woodbury Central. Not only did Drew Clunder throw for 5 touchdowns and a win over a really solid Kingsley Pearson team, but they were all to different receivers. His favorite target, Eric McGill, hauled in 8 catches for 120 yards and 1 of those 5 scores. This Woodbury Central team is heating up, averaging 40 points per game the last 5 weeks and not allowing many either. They've got 3-3 Tri-Center next, and I really don't see them being tested the rest of the way until the postseason, that is. At number 2, St. Ansgar, another undefeated team, exactly what you wanted to see from the Red Hot Saints in a 61-0 win over Newman Catholic. Team effort, tons of contributors, and this team hasn't allowed 15-plus points against them since week 1, and that was to a ranked 2A squad. They've got 1-5 West Fork next. And at number 1, defending the target yet again is Madrid. Only 3 completions through the air for the Tiger offense, but it was enough to pick up a convincing win over a pretty good Central Decatur team that was 4-1. Preston Wicker, although not elite through the air, was elite on the ground, 22 for 160 and 3 scores for the quarterback. This Madrid defense is on a 3-game run of not allowing 10-plus points, and they've got 2-4 North Mahaska next. So Madrid, they defend their target. I believe for the last month they've had it. It looks like 3 weeks. This is going to be their 3rd week as the number 1 team in Class A, and they'll look to defend it yet again. But that is all I have for your Class A rankings. Again, be sure to subscribe if you're not, and I will catch you guys next week.